Om Shanti, brothers sisters. Brothers and sisters, show a wave of hand to welcome Ken, and also you can hear the Zoom. The Zoom is clear, everyone? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Brother Ken, we welcome you on behalf of all the Asian countries this evening. So nothing like a very auspicious time that we have you here. On one hand is Christmas Eve, Christmas tomorrow, and on the other hand is the okay, I think on behalf of the Asian Brahmins welcome Ken. It's nothing like such an auspicious time. We have Kent now. As you know, today is Christmas Eve, tomorrow is Christmas, and nothing like ending this year with our special beloved Ken is here. I think most of us very, very well versed and know Ken very well. Probably I just recap. Maybe some of you are new here this evening. So presently, Ken is living in Brazil since 1971. I think Ken is one of the original viewers who started Seva service in South America. And also Ken is a consultant, a trainer, an author, you name it. I think he's the initiator of many, many projects and many, many programs that maybe I'll just mention a few of the main thing. He's a creator of the self-management and the quality of life program, which was used in many, many countries actually. And Ken is also the founder of the Oxford Leadership Global Consultancy. And I think he's one of the very good example of a double foreigners, as Baba praised very, very much for all these years. That he's also was awarded the Personality of Year Award 2009 by the Brazilian management. And I think we are very fortunate, Ken, to be having you here. And this evening, I think about 6-7 countries are joining us for this program, including Philippines, participants from Philippines, Indonesia, Japan, and Thailand. Singapore as well. I think more are coming in a short while. Okay, without taking too much time, Ken is going to speak to us on a very, very important topic. And I think lately for the past 2-3 months, Ken has been sharing a lot about working together, getting along together, especially with the Brahmin family. So this evening, Ken is speaking on a very, very challenging, I think very topic to all of us everywhere. The topic is living and working with others. Okay, without further ado, I would welcome Ken on behalf of the Asian family with a small, tiny bouquet of flower. Ken, over to you, Ken.
Okay.
Okay, over to you, Ken.
Brother.
Yeah, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, everyone. It's lovely to be with the Asian family. Last week I was with Africa, but actually I was conducting over 3 weekends the Dharana-based leadership course that we had created in Australia, beginning of the year. And Sister Mira called me and she said, well, during every night for 1 month on Avyakti Parivar, I was sharing the essence of this course. And so Mira then asked me if I could share a few of the ideas, because the whole topic on Avyakti Parivar, which actually this week celebrated 1,000 days. Can you imagine Sister Moini has been going 1,000 days? It's absolutely phenomenal. So I was helping her out when she was in Madhavan, where she couldn't really do the full session. So she asked me to do a session. I said, okay, let's call it Living and Working with Others. So I'm going to share about that for about 45 minutes, I suppose, and then we can open for questions and answers. So if during what I'm saying there, you have a question, I think you can put it in the chat and make sure that, let's see how many we can deal with at the end, because it is a very, very challenging topic, you could say. In fact, last night I was talking with Brother Charlie exactly about these challenging times that we're living in and the context of our leadership in these end times. And we see very clearly what, that everyone is choosing their seats. All of the things that have to be sorted out seem to be getting sorted out. So if there's any leftover karmic accounts, they seem to appear, and suddenly someone either disappears or they change course or they get involved in some obstacle. It seems like everything is settling at the moment. And of course, there are a lot of unresolved things. We're 84 birth souls, and you can imagine how many situations we've been in over those 84 births, how many times we've been parents, how many times we've been a man or a woman or a child or an old person, how many times have we had a job, how many different jobs, so much stuff we've built up. And if we ask ourselves, what is dharana? Basically, it's the connection between my innate qualities, my deep qualities, and the world around me, and how to make that connection so that in relationships with others, basically dharana is a question of how we relate. So how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to others, especially how we relate to matter. So the connection between the deep soul and the world around us has to be organized according to dharana. So that in the relationships, virtues such as respect, sweetness, kindness, determination, a clean and an honest heart, all of these things sort of come out. And we're seeing it. Just a minute. We're seeing it, that there are three factors in all of our lives, I think. One is the time and the changes that time brings. The other is our own inner effort. And the other factor are the outstanding accounts. So these things are sort of converging, Time is coming to an end. Any outstanding karmic accounts are sort of popping up. And we're trying to organize ourselves accordingly. So that becomes our effort, basically. And not just so many souls are leaving bodies, but so many souls deciding, no, this is enough for me. I can't do the same effort that I was doing years ago. After so many years, how can I continue to do such an effort? And we see things, for example, that the new ones don't really have much respect for the old ones, and the old ones don't really have too much respect for the new ones, and so on. So dharana is the breach between us and everyone else. And one of the things I was sharing was we have to have a relationship with dharma. I gave a talk the other day, I think was through our family in Turkey. They organized a very interesting topic about how to understand Dharamraj. And one of the things that I suggested is that instead of having a relationship with Dharamraj, who is the final, it's like a mirror at the end. It's not that Baba's there with a whip, but we see ourselves very clearly what we did and what we didn't do, what we should have done and didn't do, what we could have done and didn't do, all of those things, what I was supposed to do and I did something else, all of those things are going to come in front of us. So to have a good relationship with Dharamraj, I first have to have a good relationship with Dharma. That means the sort of life that we lead, the sort of effort that I do, the sort of state of mind that I'm in, the sort of words that I use, all of those things are, if they're correctly according to what Baba teaches, Dharma, in fact, is for us, is Sriman. So what Baba says as a father is one thing, what Baba says as a teacher, the way I treat others is the way that Baba treats us. That's sort of being the good child, being the best child that I can be. If I put Gyan into my eyes, as Baba was saying, people, yesterday he was saying that people close their eyes in meditation because they can't trust their eyes. Their eyes sort of deceive them. So that means that what I'm seeing, I'm not understanding. So a relationship with the teacher is to make sure that what I'm seeing and interpreting is through Gyan and not through my own head or through what the latest gurus around say. You know, there's lots of people giving advice on YouTube, for example. But it's not Srimad, it's not the same as what Baba says, and neither the reason why he says something. So this whole thing of at the end we're having to deal with others, we're having to deal with ourselves, we're having to deal with the complexity that's still there maybe in our sanskars. I mean, all of us have been through so many things. How many traumas have there been in the last 63 births that we don't even know about? Maybe there's still stuff from our childhood in this birth that we can't work out. For example, I know, because I grew up in Australia, as you know, and I actually grew up in a very place that was like surrounded by forest and rivers and the ocean. So I grew up just playing in the nature. And where I lived, no one used locks on doors. No one bothered about locking their houses, because no one would. There were no thieves. There was nothing. Everything was so safe. And very few people. Where I lived, there were only 300 people. So I grew up not having any experience of locking houses or locking things up. And so today, still I can see that that's in me, you know. I leave the door open, I forget to lock it. It's not because I'm becoming, you know, having some dementia or something. It's just that was my early habit. And so we still have lots of early habits, even from this life. But what do I have to be now? What's my role now? I have to be my best self. I don't have to be someone that others expect me to be. And so we have a permanent homework, which is becoming perfect in all subjects. Gyan, Yoga, Dharana, Seva. So if we take Gyan to its highest level, it would be wisdom. If we take Yoga to its highest level, it will be spiritual power. If we take Dharana to its highest level, it will be divine virtues. And of course, if we take service to its highest level, it becomes unlimited. So instead of looking at Gyan, Yoga, Dharana, Seva, I should look at how wise I am, how much wisdom I've acquired. I mean, wisdom means to be able to understand what I have to do in real time. Situation happens and I have the best response automatically. That's wisdom. So how wise am I? Have I really put Gyan here? And also Gyan here. Like we see things through the third eye, but we also hear things through the third ear, the way we listen to things. And so, and again, yoga, am I spiritually powerful, or am I still struggling? So there's a different level in each subject. Are my virtues still the same pretty much as they were when I came to Baba? Or have they become divine? The difference between a divine virtue and a human virtue is the divine virtues at Baba's service as an instrument. So the whole essence of this dharana-based leadership was how to become a better instrument. And of course, service, the question here is how unlimited have I become in the way that I think and do service? Or am I stuck in some sort of a repetitive situation where it doesn't seem like I'm becoming free and unlimited? The other day, actually a few weeks ago, I was in another country and I was talking to one sister who's sort of struggling with things. And she said that it was a particular project, and she said she was so caught up in the role that she should have been consulted, that she should have been the one. And she said, if I don't coordinate something, I don't cooperate. So I became, what? We say my way or no way, some people take their role so seriously that unless they do it, they won't cooperate in anything else. And it seems so strange, I remember in the late 70s, many meetings after the Morley between the few foreigners that were around and Bapdada after the Morley, many times in the history hall. So the Morley would happen in history hall, and Baba would always call the few foreigners that were around to meet them and to say things either individually or as a group. And Baba once asked us, do you know why you were born in those countries? And this is sort of part of the story of having an unlimited consciousness. He said, it's because it's the perfect disguise. You don't need a visa if you were born in a place. To send people out from India is difficult. But if you were born there, you are from here, you are from Bharat, but you were born in those places to do service because it would be the perfect disguise. Of course, we all laughed, and of course it's right, isn't it? Baba will always say that in fact, he told me when I first came to Brazil, he said, look, as soon as you can, put the other people in front, put the local people in front, because they know their country. You will always be a foreigner. This is what Baba said to me. And of course, you have to be soul conscious, but people will pick it up, and we have to respect what people understand. We have to respect how things are understood. And we have to involve people, even though I may have a coordinating role. These days, it's all of Latin America, but I don't see myself as the top person. I see myself sort of helping. In fact, we have our organizational chart in Latin America. There's a core group that I coordinate, but in fact, the core groups meets every week, and I just meet with them once a month. So it's not like I'm completely involved in everything. No, only when something really gets out of hand, they ask me what I think. But the model is a lotus flower. So it's like an organic thing that in the middle of the lotus flower is the core group. And then you've got the different departments, which are like different petals of the lotus flower. It's a beautiful idea, and it's very symbolic that we have to operate like a lotus flower. We have to be like the petals together and just sort of growing naturally. And so we're involving many people in all of the tasks regionally. And then it's sort of, people are feeling very motivated to do that. But in one of the other meetings that we have with Bapdada in the late 70s, Baba said to us, he gave us a long drishti and he said, many of you won't be here at the end. And we all looked at each other as we were going out. Not me, I will stay, I will stay. But of course, if you look at a photograph of the people who were there at that time, I think only 10% are still around. The other 90% did go for any reason. People leave Gyan not because of, they leave Gyan because of themselves. In fact, I was talking about this with Charlie yesterday. They think that their problem is with someone. But in fact, the problem is with themselves. If you are not happy, it's the return of your karmic account as well. Maybe someone is provoking you. And this is a whole thing of getting along with others. Understand how much projection you are putting into what you think about people. And I can see very clearly some of the cases that people that are unhappy at the moment, they're getting the return of the sorrow that they caused others. I'm talking about main instruments who are not particularly happy. They did cause sorrow. So what does Baba say? If you cause sorrow to others, you will also have sorrow. And so another thing Baba taught, again, in another of these little meetings with Bap Dada, he gave us a long drishti and he said, you people think too much. You people think too much. And it's true, we could get through the day with maybe 10% of the thoughts that we have. We don't need to think so much about anything or anyone. Everything is just a sort of a variation of the same thing. Everything. There are souls involved, whatever, how to make a drama into a full stop. Just see how it's just a variation of the same theme. Souls are involved in a situation. Each soul has his own part. Each soul is going through their own process. The mixture of effort and accounts that have to be solved. So everyone's in their own process. Everyone is probably thinking too much. They're thinking much more than they need to. So you've got all of these people involved in the situation. All of them are probably thinking too much. And of course, who is actually seeing things clearly? If you think too much, you won't see anything clearly. You can only see things clearly if you reduce things to their sort of essence. Then it's clear. And if it's clear, you don't need to think anymore. That's it. And I remember Daddy Janki. I asked Daddy in one of our RC meetings, regional coordinators meetings. And it was a time when there were big queues outside of Daddy's room. Some of you probably were part of a queue waiting to meet Daddy Janki at some point. And I asked Daddy, what sort of things are coming up to you? And what do you say to them? And Daddy said, mostly what I tell them in the end is, stop thinking too much about others. Stop thinking about others. Just concentrate on your own efforts. Don't think about others. Concentrate on your own efforts. It's an incredible advice, isn't it? So if you look at the sort of challenges that we have in getting along with others and working together with others, first of all, there are the different competencies. They call competence a mixture of knowledge. That means knowledge about what you have to do. That's extremely important in service. If you're involved and you don't have a clue about what you're doing, it will affect the relationship unless you are humble. If you are humble, you can learn. If you're not humble, you won't learn. So in service, you have to have knowledge of the task, whatever it is, since you're living and serving with others, you have to have knowledge of the task. And if you don't have knowledge of the task, learn. And to learn, you need to be humble. You need to recognize that there are things that you don't know and that you need to know. And so please help me. So that's the first thing. The other part of competence is attitude. Do I have the correct attitude? Attitude is like how I see things, basically. From what perspective am I seeing things? Again, it really helps if you have this enthusiastic attitude and also humble. Enthusiasm and humility, absolutely key for us to get along with each other. That my presence makes people feel better. This is what a question that I ask those who think that they are leaders. Are people happier when you arrive or when you leave? Doesn't mean you have to, doesn't mean you have to be like an angel, but people should appreciate your presence and not appreciate or celebrate your absence. So I should have a positive attitude, a humble attitude, a learning attitude, and a celebratory attitude in a sense, like Baba tells us that every day should be a festival, not just the day of Shivratri like last week, Sunday morning. Every day should be I should be in a celebratory mode or mood. And the third thing about competence is skills. So knowledge, attitude, and skills. Skills means I've learned something. And people are more skilled than others in many things. People are more skilled in speaking to the public than others. People are more skilled in the kitchen than others. People are more skilled to work with IT, different technologies. And so there's an incredible amount of opportunity in service, especially as service becomes more complex, for us to learn skills. I'm absolutely certain that all of us who are listening to this presentation have learned new skills since they've come to Baba. They've learned new tasks, and especially they've learned new attitudes. Now, if you remember global functioning, the whole idea behind it was to understand the relationship between the spiritual and the administrative aspects of service. So we introduced this image of a double helix, like in the DNA molecule. You've got two intertwining strands, and they're sort of connected up all along the strand. So the double helix was our logo for the global functioning. What it means is that there are spiritual aspects of service, and there are administrative aspects of service, and they're completely interdependent. So the way we go about service, we have to do it correctly according to the laws of the land. We have to consider the money that comes in. It's not our money, it's public money. So we have to account for it. And sometimes, many times, we have to sign some sort of a contract for a house or a purchase of something. So there are definitely administrative aspects. We have to keep a database of our contacts and students. And, we have to organize that database. There's a lot of documentation. But the spiritual part is all of that has to be done in a spiritual way. All of that has to be done in a spiritual way. So the more spiritual people have to respect the more administrative types, and vice versa. Because we have to learn, we have to progress. We consider ourselves as a family, a spiritual family. So spirituality is the main aspect when we consider family. But because we're a public organization, that means the public comes and we're using public money and public donations. The governments don't see us as a family. They see us as an organization like any other. And so there are things that we have to do. The whole aspect of creating and sustaining teams of people. How do you involve people? So service is not just getting along with people, but it's looking out for talents. Looking, first of all, you understand the need of service, and then you're on the lookout for someone who could probably fulfill that need. And not everyone comes ready. As I said before, most of us learn things with Baba after coming to Baba. But at least there should be a willingness to learn, as I said. If someone is capable and willing, we have someone ready to train. If someone is incapable and willing, then we have to sort of train. If someone is capable and unwilling, then we have to motivate them. Now, if someone is incapable and unwilling, it may be due to some depression. So at least that person deserves to have it. We have to have a talk with them, say, you know, what's going on. But if I had to think about the main thing that makes it difficult for us to live and to get along with others, I would have to say ego. Ego. Interesting. When the group that I was with from Africa last week in the training, because it's the same time zone, the people from Greece wanted to participate. So I asked them, the word ego, at least in English, it comes from the word ego in Greek. And ego in Greek means I, means when you say I'm going to the bank in Greek, you say ego, going to the bank. I don't know the rest, but it means I. So there's a problem. And the word crisis that we have in English, I know that in the Chinese characters, it's sort of half of it is danger and the other half is opportunity. But it's very interesting that crisis comes from Greek. The word crisis comes from Greek, krisis. And krisis means a moment of decision. So it's not a terrible event. It's something that I have to understand and decide. So if I say crisis of the ego, it's what I have to understand and decide according to the things around me. Will always come back to me. How I am, what I am, how I think, how I see. And of course, the other side of ego is self-deception, that I can be blind about things. All of us have blind spots that we can't imagine because we can't see them. Others can see them. So if you make a list of qualities that you have and other qualities that you need to develop because you realize that you need to be more respectful, to make a list of 4 or 5 different qualities you have naturally and 4 or 5 different qualities that you think that you need to develop, and you show that list to other people that work with you and live with you. And then you see many things that you think is not what other people think about you. So there are some things you are hiding because you're not revealing them. You think that you are great at something, but no one perceives that. And there are other things that everyone can see except you. And it's very useful to do such an exercise because the other side of ego is blindness. You can't see who you are, how you impact on others. So the whole question is how to balance between the inner state and the service and the relationships. There are three things: my inner stage, the service that I have to do, and my relationships with others, either with Brahmins or non-Brahmins. It's still one category, relationships. So of course, everything revolves around how I am internally. If I'm okay, service will continue naturally. My relationships will be very easy. But sometimes things become so complicated that I have to, it's like changing a wheel while still riding the bicycle. I'm on the bicycle and I'm trying to change the wheel. I have to take some time out sometimes. So, for example, some practices, I don't know what's the time, okay. There's still about 10 minutes. So some practices, and we can stop and practice while we're talking about this, that are really help us to develop a natural yogic consciousness that helps me stay beyond, and this is absolutely important with all of the craziness that's happening in the world, to be able to stay beyond. Like Baba beautifully described the three worlds yesterday, like three different floors of the building. Let me go to the incorporeal floor, or let me go to the subtle floor. Let me not stay here in this physical floor. So I can keep the highest perspective. So first thing, we have to practice. And as I say this, let's do it. I'm a bodiless soul in front of God. That's the highest state. Just think that I am a bodiless soul in front of the Supreme Soul. And just in a second, I am in front of Baba. And his state affects me directly. I am a bodiless soul in front of Baba. And I'm just picking up his power, picking up the rays of light and might. It's a beautiful state. Just stay in that. And if you stay in that state, everything seems so distant, all of the confusion of the world, all of the difficulties you may have in relationships with others. It's not the other person, it's you. Stop blaming. Just, even though the other may be doing the worst, Baba says, just be beyond. Stay with Baba and see that soul as Baba sees the soul. See that situation as Baba sees the situation. And then you can adjust your state. So think of some situation that bothered you in the last 2 weeks. And now sitting with Baba as a bodiless soul, how do you see it? What do you feel? What does Baba feel about it? Adjust your feelings to his feelings. Something else that I can practice is, as Baba says, Trinetri. Use the third eye. So I look at my present situation and that of the world totally through the lens of Gyan. So let me put in front of me the understanding of the drama, the understanding of the cycle, the understanding of the repetition, the understanding of the fact that we are spiritual beings, not physical beings, that all of us have a role to play. Everyone is stuck in their own process or taking the benefit from their own process accordingly. So if I see things through the third eye, I can be objective. I can see things as they really are. I can see things as they truly are. This is using the truth to understand things. It's ridiculous to try to blame things or blame others and try to remain truthful. It won't work. So if I look at the situation, whatever it is, I've asked you to remember a situation that bothered you, and I'm looking at it through the lens of Gyan. What do I observe? What's the reality behind that? It's just souls playing roles. It's an eternal drama. The scene that bothered me actually repeats identically. Do I want to get bothered eternally? No. So let me understand the lesson. If I am bothered, if I'm upset, absolutely I'm not seeing the situation correctly. Because if I'm true, if I'm looking with truth in my eyes, there's no way that I can get upset. Truth will not upset me. Truth will make me free. So if I'm upset, I'm being false. I'm having a false perspective. Truth frees me, does not bind me. That's what Baba says. So another thing, Trikaldashi. Trikaldashi. So let me, I'm sitting with Baba. I've operated my third eye. My perspective is true. So I'm now Trikaldashi. I'm looking at the whole cycle, first of all. And I reaffirm that I'm the soul. I'm the same soul that has had all of those births. I know what's happening in the world at the moment. I can take any situation. I know I can see it in the short term and also in the long term. Everything that happens, even the craziest things, the most confusing things, the most chaotic things, everything that happens has a past. That means there have been things in the past that created that situation. From the souls involved, they all have some impact on the present. Where people have come from, what they think, what they've gone through, all of that creates the present. So let me see a situation, maybe the same situation we were looking at. If I'm just seeing it in the short term, I won't understand it. So I have to add some past. That situation, the attitudes involved, the virtues or the defects involved, came from habit or influences. So if someone's behaving wrongly, they're under the influence of something. It's not that they want to be like that. So let me see everything in the long term, Give a big past to everything, understand the present impact, and look at the consequences if that continues. And then you'll have mercy. If someone's behaving badly, or you think that they're behaving badly, be merciful. Don't continue thinking about their behavior, because that makes you part of it. Then it is your karmic account as well. It's not the other person. If you feel bad, you're involved. If you feel detached and merciful, that's the correct attitude. And of course, if we do the last one, I'm Trilokanath. So I can go to the subtle regions. I can look at the state of the world with Bapdada. I can feel his mercy, his extreme mercy. Then I can go to the incorporeal world and remain with Shiv Baba in total silence, without thoughts. So I can play around with the three worlds. Then I can come back to the physical world, refreshed. Just go to the subtle state, see the world as Bapdada sees it, see the situation as Bapdada sees it, and then jump to the incorporeal world, go into complete silence, thoughtlessness, be the embodiment of some quality, and then come back. So I want to see if you've got any questions. And well, I'd like to dedicate more time to questions just to clarify things. Have any questions come up, Ivy?
Yeah. Om Shanti. Thank you very much, Ken. I think to spark off the question from the family, somebody have given me a few questions. Is it okay, Ken, I can post to you and the family?
Sure.
Yeah. So first question is somebody was asking is pertaining to today's sharing that you did earlier is how do we match my feeling with Baba's feelings? Is there any method that can use to match my feelings with Baba's feelings? How do I match that feelings?
Well, in a way, you know, how does Baba feel things? He's the ocean, right? So it's not that he's having a particular feeling. First of all, he's completely detached and loving. So if I were completely detached and loving, how would I feel about a situation? I would feel detached and loving. So it's like feeling is probably much stronger than thinking. Thinking, we feel things before we think the things. So if I ask myself, just imagine yourself to be an ocean of love, for example, like Baba. So if you were looking at a situation as an ocean of love, how would you feel? You would feel completely just loving, but you probably wouldn't even think about it, you know. So just matching your feelings with Baba's feelings is actually matching your stage with Baba. So if he's the ocean of love, I'm the master ocean of love. If he's the almighty authority, I'm the master almighty authority. And of course, and this is a problem we have working with others, some people are very authoritarian. So they have to understand that the sort of authority that Baba wants us to have is completely based on experience and also based on humility. Baba says, I have to match humility and great. I'll be great because I'm humble. I won't be great because I'm trying to be great. I'll be great because I'm humble. So matching myself with Baba is matching my stage. Baba's completely incorporeal. How incorporeal can I remain? I mean, I can maybe be incorporeal for a few minutes, but Baba's constantly incorporeal. So how can I make my experience more constant? And if my experience is more constant, how would I feel about things? This is what it seems to me that we have to do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ken. Brothers, sisters, if you have any question, you can post in the chat box. Meanwhile, you can just write it down there, and then we can post to Ken. So before that, Ken, there's another question. I think very interesting. I think very interestingly, you brought up that all the problems that happen in the relationship and family is mainly because there's no balance between the inner stage. There's no balance between inner stage and the service or the relationship that we are doing. So the question is, what do you really encourage all the Brahmins to, at least the minimum they should do, or the essential thing they should do to have a good balance throughout the day? So how to have a good balance between our inner stage and with the external? Yeah.
I was talking to Charlie about this yesterday, and he asked me what I thought about souls that are having difficulties, and I just remembered a few souls that are going through difficulties, and they're as I said before, they may be half blaming themselves and half blaming others for their difficulty. But if I look at them sort of go, if I were just completely detached and completely objective, I would say that you can see in all of those souls that are going through difficulty, one factor in common. They don't pay attention to the basic dharana, effort, like being soul conscious. Like Baba said yesterday, while you're eating, while you're drinking, while you're moving around, be soul conscious. And if I really pay attention to that, that is absolutely enough. Because by being soul conscious, I can immediately become detached from any situation. I can immediately connect with Baba, and I can immediately sort of adjust my stage according to being in contact with Baba. If the ocean of love is with me and I adjust myself to that connection, then what will happen to me? I'll become loving. So I find that the weak point of those three things, like the stage, the spiritual stage, the relationships and the service that we do or happens through us, it passes through. It's actually one thing. I have to make the basic effort to be soul conscious in the basic things, when I'm walking, when I'm sitting, when I'm talking, when I'm and like just do the basic effort. Baba says, say something, then go beyond, then come back and say something else, and then go beyond. So I find that the souls that are going through difficulties do not do that basic effort. It's like basic. So if you want to adjust yourself, and let me tell you, nothing can substitute your effort with yourself. Nothing. You can talk to other people. You can go on YouTube and watch these popular gurus say stuff. You can do many things, but nothing will compensate for a lack of your own self-effort. So that's where it starts, you know. And so you've got these three areas: relationships, service, and stage. It's not that I have to run away from difficulties that I have in relationships and stage, and I get so much caught up in service, because being busy is actually avoiding the question. It's avoiding the effort. Busyness, in fact, is laziness. If you're too busy, you're lazy because you're not doing this effort. But these things are very subtle. So some people are like they're refugees from the difficulties they have in relationships and with themselves. They get caught up so much in service. And of course, they burn out. And some people have difficulties in service. And so they sort of get involved in relationships to make up for the difficulties they have in service. And some people have difficulties in their relationships, and they have difficulties in service, and they go and live inside their own heads, trying to sort, just thinking, going around and around and around. But the balance is, when I'm okay, spiritually, my relationships will be okay, and the service that I do is natural. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. I think Ken, you really bring up a very what sort of a very good slogan, that busyness is actually a form of laziness. It's first time I'm hearing that, Ken. I think one last question, Ken. I think throughout the whole sharing, I noticed two things, especially in Ken. One is Ken is able to reflect, bring a lot of reflection upon yourself, and not just reflection, a lot of experimenting. So the question is, Ken, how do you have develop this specialty of reflection and then experimenting whatever you reflected on?
I don't know what comes first, whether it's the reflection or the experience, or if it's the experience and then a reflection about the experience. I think it's it's like that old, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah.
You have, or the seed and the plant, what comes first, the seed or the plant? I think seeds come from plants and plants make seeds, right? So
yeah,
I just enjoy asking questions, basically. If this was like, if such and such a thing was like this, what would happen? If I were this, what would happen? So I try to put myself in a situation hypothetically, and then that makes me reflect. I put myself in a or something I see in the movie, I automatically associate it with something that's happening in real time. So I can see that Baba's giving the murli, and I can make the murli personal. This is absolutely important. I have to make my mercy, the murli very personal, because Baba is talking to me, and in fact, as if I'm sitting in the room listening to the murli, there's no one else except me and Baba. And Baba's having a one-to-one talk with me. It's a very interesting way to listen to the murli. And so Baba's giving me instructions. So if I pay attention to the murli, then I'm automatically associating it with things I'm planning to do today. Like, let's say I have a special program. So let me listen in the murli what Baba's going to tell me to say or to do for that special program. Maybe I'm doing a special effort. I should be on the lookout for those points that help me to make that effort better or easier. So that sort of thing, I'm just all the time curious to see what Baba's going to say, and to make sure that I apply that in something. Because if I associate the gyan with some situation, really, then every time I think about that situation, I remember gyan. I don't remember the situation, but I remember the gyan about the situation. So in that way, experience and reflection, they're sort of together, like the seed and the tree, the seed and the tree, the seed and the tree. So somebody's saying Merry Christmas to dear Brother Ken and all divine angels, Rasha Kim Kamayan. Yeah, okay. Anyone else?
Ken, actually, we have just 3 questions. I don't know how much time. Somebody just typed the chat there. Could I ask at least one question?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can ask 2 questions.
Yeah. Okay. One of the questions somebody chat is the question is, Baba spoke about being responsible to a lock-kick and lock-kick. Baba spoke about being responsible to both lock-kick and a lock-kick. So give some practical examples to clearly understand the point, because very often there's a tug of war between the lock-kick and the lock-kick. So how would the BK decide being responsible to both lock-kick and a lock-kick?
Well, first of all, who are you? You are a Brahmin soul. Whether you are with lock-kicks or alokicks, you are still a Brahmin soul. So it's not that you have 2 situations and you have to jump from one to the other, You don't change. You are the same person, whether you're in the center or in your own home. And the dharana, in fact, is the same. You have to be loving, you have to be cheerful, you have to be, you don't, with Lokics, for example, you've probably already given gyan to them. So it's not a question of giving them more gyan unless there's a reflection happening and you can contribute towards it. If someone is saying something about the state of the world, you can contribute. Why not? You have the same right in a family to contribute an idea as anyone else. But you shouldn't preach at home. No way you should preach. Should be natural, should be loving, should be light, should be happy. And in service too. They're not different qualities that you need for service. Like, it's the same. You have to be light, cheerful, happy, loveful when you're doing service. And when you're interacting with others, I think what happens though is because we Brahmin souls have been together over many births, there's probably the chance of some karmic account happening to the extent that you won't tolerate. We tend to tolerate our Lokics better than we tolerate the Lokic family, the Brahmins. But that's because we expect, it's only the intolerance is actually a question of expectation. We expect someone who's listening to Murli to understand the things, to do the things. We expect someone who's not listening to Murli or not following Gyan or Srimad, we don't expect any sort of behavior out of them because Baba's left it so clear that, people are Tamil Pradhan. They've become Tamil Pradhan. So you don't have great expectations of Tamil Pradhan thinking, but you do have expectations of people who are trying to be Sattva Pradhan. But even that is also false, because expectation is unreal, You have to be natural. And that it's not a question of balancing, the Lokic and the Alokic. It's like the idea of the balance where you've got two plates, and if it's heavy on one side, then you put something more in the other side so that it balances out. It's not like that. It's not really two things, Lokic and Alokic. It's one thing. I'm a soul. I'm a soul with the Lokics. I'm a soul with the Alokics. I'm a Brahmin in Gyan. I'm also a Brahmin when I'm with Lokics. So it's not a question of jumping from one thing to the other to balance things out. I just have to be internally balanced. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. I think, Ken, we just have one last question before we wind up to this program. You mentioned earlier in the last answer to the question is on karmic account. So this question is, since we are settling our karmic accounts with each other, sometimes there's small arguments comes in between us, like editing them or correcting them. So editing them or correcting them in the midst of or some arguments happen, is that really settling, or are we creating new accounts with each other?
Could be both. It could be settling and perpetuating. Means you're making it perpetual. You settle, 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 settle. You settle and create something else. You settle and create something else. So it continues on and on. Some of our relationships are chronically bad because of this. So if you interact with someone, and I'll give an example. If someone's behavior upsets you, if some specific person, like you're with a group of 20, everyone else can do that same thing, but if that one soul does that thing, you get upset. That indicates a karmic account. If anyone who does it, including that person, upsets you, it could be a problem with your own sanskars. So If 20 people do it and only one makes you upset, karmic account. If 20 people do it and you don't get upset with anyone, you get upset with everyone, it's you and your sanskars, not a karmic account. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a subtle thing. It's true. We have maybe some other people we are living with and working with. It is, you know, you can forgive someone else doing that thing, but not that person. That indicates a karmic account. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kent. I think for the wonderful sharing this evening. Actually, I think on behalf of everyone present this evening, we look forward to more of the sessions in the next year, 2023. Agree, brothers and sisters?
Sure.
We can look forward to Ken. We'll contact you further. And think to end the session, I would like to invite Miraben to say a few words. Over to you, Miraben.
Miraben, are
Yeah.
you there?
Miraben, you're there? Yeah. Yeah, it's coming in, Ken, in a short while.
She's in the retreat center.
No, she's in the center in Bangsa in KL here. In
Bangsa,
KL,
okay.
yeah, in the city center here.
Okay.
Miraben, you're there? Yeah.
Meanwhile, we can meditate until she comes.
Yeah, okay.
Just remember Baba, yeah. While you're trying to get in touch with her.
When you are weary, here's what I'll do. When you can't smile anymore, I'll smile for you. I'll be the raindrops when you cry. I'll be the sun when you can't shine. And when the world runs out of time, I'll be there too. Too many people, too blind to see. Too many roller coaster rides won't set you free. So chase the rainbow, chase the high, become the brightest in the sky. But when the world runs out of time, you'll come to me.
Om Shanti Miraben.
Brother Ken, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, anyway, I really appreciate your contribution to the Asia family this evening. I am sure, a lot of experiences and reflection that you have shared will definitely help to work together, living together as a community, as a family, as a world. And of course, it is a learning process, isn't it? As we keep learning, we unlearn many things.
That's right.
Learning and unlearning has to take place at the same time. So if I'm prepared to unlearn some of the things of the past, then I can learn things from the present, and then I can brighten my future. So I really thank you very much on behalf of the Asia family for giving your valuable time and sharing your deep wisdom. So we look forward to seeing you sometimes later in this year with some other deep insight into Dharana points. So on behalf
Okay.
of the Malaysia family, we wish South America, Latin America, South America, Merry Christmas and a very, very bright and a happy and powerful year 2023.
Thank you. So same from here. Everyone
Thank you,
joins
Brother
me.
Ken, and lots of love to Sister Luciana, Moira, and all the core group of South America.
Okay, Miraben, thank you. And also, of course, it is a very significant that we're meeting on Christmas Eve. So all the best to everyone. It's a time when people think about what they should change for next year. So we're doing that all the time anyway, but it's a good thing that Baba talked the other day about promises. So let's make our promises really stick for the year that's coming. So happy Christmas, happy New Year.
So you don't mind
Shanti.
if you have time to stay with us for meditation until 7:30 Malaysia time, which will be another 10 minutes.
Okay. I can
Okay,
stay.
so yeah, you can give drishti and finish with the traffic control at 7:30. Thank you so much. I'll see you
Okay.
in Madhuban in February.
See you there. Yes. See everyone who's going there. Lovely to be with you.
शिव की